it would be wonderful to hear where you're working and something about what a normal day is like for you at the moment.
Yes, sure. So I work in a women's forensic rehab ward, and a life for me on the ward would be to go to handover in the morning, find out how the women were the night before. I would usually run a group in the morning. So this ranges from either doing a life skills group, or at the moment we're doing a transitions group on the ward, just preparing the women to go back into the community, as some have been in hospital for over like 5 years potentially. I then might do some one-to-one sessions, so different ADL cooking sessions with them too, and do some notes too. And sometimes I might take them out.
Okay, lovely. And so I'm going to assume that you're an occupational therapist from what you've described to me. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay, lovely. Thank you. And Emily, thank you for sharing a bit about your role and what you're doing. And what made you choose to go into this area? What was it about this role or working in this service that was important to you, that really resonated with you?
So I am also an occupational therapist, but I hadn't actually heard of that job for a long time. I just really liked working with learning disabilities and autism. I did that. I studied psychology as my undergrad, and because you have such long uni summers, I worked in a special needs camp. And then after psychology uni was finished, I worked in a special needs school, and I really enjoyed working with that client group. And then I just did some research around what type of roles are available to work with them and occupational therapy, and I thought that really fits. I really like the whole teaching them life skills instead of just like listening to their problems. I think it's really valuable to also like do a lot for them in terms of ADLs. So that's really how I fell into it.
Lovely, thank you. And Darshita, tell me about what it's like to move from being a student learner to getting your registration and joining the workforce. How did that feel to you?
It was quite a big jump, I'd say, and it felt quite scary at first. I think when I first started in my first rotation, I feel like I had quite a lot of imposter syndrome, as you just kind of didn't, all the accountability and responsibility was just you, and you didn't really have your educator with you every single step of the way. So I did feel nervous in that sense, but then as the time went on, it just made you a bit more confident in your skills. And I feel like it equips you to be a better practitioner too, just kind of getting thrown in the deep end and going for it. But it was nice to just have all that extra support around me too, which helped.
Brilliant, thank you. It is. I know we talk about the, you feel quite wobbly because you go from feeling very confident that you've got what you needed to do to go forward, to then you flip into being the accountable person in that space. Yeah. So it can feel a bit nervous, can't it? So when you say about it was great having that support around you, what is that support? What did that look like for you, and what was important to you?
So I had my supervisor, the Band 7 OT within the team, who was really, really supportive. And initially we'd do supervision sort of almost every week or every 2 weeks, which was really helpful. And then we also had the Oxleas preceptorship program too, which is monthly. We meet up together online. And I found that's just so helpful, just to be able to connect with all other AHPs that are newly qualified too, and just to be able to share experiences.
Brilliant, thank you.
Yeah.
Emily, have you been part of the preceptorship programme? Were you able to access that too? And what did that add for you, and what was important about having a programme like that when you joined the workforce?
Yeah, it's been really, really valuable. It's been really nice to, because I knew some of them before from either university or previous placements. So that's been really nice to be able to catch up with all of them. And it's been really validating any anxieties that you feel, to have everyone else feel the same way is really nice. And also when we have to tick off and complete our competencies, it just feels nice to know that you're achieving so much more than you think you do, because the days go by so quickly and the weeks go by so quickly, you forget how much you're developing as time goes on. So stopping to reflect on all that, with that framework, it has been really helpful.
Fantastic. And when you're thinking about what happens next, where are you thinking? I know you're just starting out in your careers now, but have you got ideas of what the next step might look like for you, where you might be interested to go, what you've seen that you're curious about?
So at the moment, I'm in a forensic setting, and it's a learning disability ward, and 3 out of 12 of my patients, and I've definitely realised that autism is like my favourite type to work with. So I think next will probably be a more specialist autism centre, as I've just learned that's what I like the most. But to be honest, I'm not really in a rush to leave. I'm very happy where I am.
Lovely, thank you. And how about you, Darshita? What is it that you are maybe thinking about or interested to explore moving forward?
So I'm on a mixed rotation at the moment. So I'll be, I'm on my second mental health post, and I'll be moving to physical health next, which would be quite nice to just experience. But I think I'll still stick to mental health after that, just because I've worked in it for quite a long time and I'm really drawn towards it. I'd probably within perinatal services.
What does that mean for those people that won't understand that term? What does that mean?
Yeah, sure. So perinatal mental health is working with mothers and babies. So mothers who have just had a baby or are pregnant with a baby, and also experiencing mental health conditions. So it's supporting them through that transition of becoming a mother.
Wow, that's a really important time and period of women's lives, isn't it, when they have children? So it's that bit around being able to be supportive and make a difference and help people when they may be struggling is quite important. You touched upon that idea that within occupational therapy, obviously you're trained, aren't you, in physical and mental health? And so you've decided at this position you're in the mental health field. Do you think that there are good opportunities in both for you coming out when you were joining the workforce? Could you see that there was options out there? Emily, I'll come to you first.
Do you mean that there's like equal opportunities in both when you come out of university?
Yeah, in terms of working, did you see that there were jobs that you could go to that related to physical health and mental health? And I know that you can obviously also work in social services as well, can't you, as well as in the NHS?
Yeah, well, I graduated last summer when COVID was all happening. So it was, I think at the time, I remember normally a lot more jobs available than there were at the time, because NHS jobs websites just was not as busy as it normally was. So I think Darshita and I probably had a harder time than other years, but there were still definitely jobs available in both mental and physical health. There were a lot of, I think I would say from what I found, more physical health roles available, because like things like orthopedics and there's always like a lot of jobs available there because they need so many OTs. I did find personally that it was a lot harder to find mental health, and I only got into my learning disability ward 6 months into just working on a general mental health ward where I was. So yeah, I found it harder than physical health, I think.
Brilliant, thank you. I see Felicity and others are still trying to get in. I can see some sad faces there. Guys, if there's anything you'd like to add or say, please, if you can access the chat box, please do pop something and some comments in there if you can't get your sound working, because it would be nice to have some of your input into the session as well. That would be great. Emily and Darshita, I'm interested to know, what would your top tips be for those, we've got people that are just finishing now, about to go off and join the workforce, and we've got those leavers that are just finishing their A-levels, waiting for their results and potentially looking and to go off now or next year to join us in the workforce and become healthcare professionals. What top tips would you give them in terms of what they can look for, either in their courses they might be looking for or in their first jobs? What was important, or do you think you would do now with your hindsight of having just been through that process?
Hello?
We can hear you, I think.
All right, sorry.
Hello, right, okay. So I'm going to come to these guys first, and then we'll come down and you can share a bit with us. Brilliant. So what top tips for looking for your first job? What would your advice be?
I'd say for me personally, just go with your heart on what you want to do. I think I'd just say within OT especially, I think everyone usually goes through the path of going into that physical rotation. And I think sometimes there's this idea that you have to just do this rotation and before moving on. But I think if you want to go for a static post, if you want to work in mental health or learning disabilities or any other more specialised areas, then I'd say definitely go for it, because it's such an amazing area to work in, and like the feeling you get after helping people is just so nice. So I'd say just follow what you want to do and just try new things as well. And if you don't like it, you can always go back to something different.
Brilliant, thank you. And how about you, Emily? What would your top tips be?
Yeah, I completely agree, because all my friends got a rotation job and I was the only one that didn't even apply, because I knew what I wanted already. But am I making the right decision? And I'm so glad I didn't just go with what everyone else was doing. And it did take me a little bit longer to find a job because I was so much more selective. So I think we're very lucky, especially occupational therapy, that there are so many roles available. It's not that competitive, which we're really lucky about. We're in a field where there are loads of jobs. So don't worry if you don't find something initially, and just keep going, because there are so much out there, and there will be something for you. So don't feel like you have to just follow what everyone else does.
Brilliant, thank you. So knowing what your interests are, working to your strengths, the things that you want to do, and there will be jobs out there. You don't have to take the first job or look at the first thing or follow everyone else if they're going into physical health. You are living examples that there are newly qualified jobs out there in mental health, learning disabilities and autism, and they're there to be had if that's the kind of route that you want to focus on. Brilliant, thank you. So I'm not even sure how to pronounce your name, so I'm going to give it a try. Sayyada, is that right?
Fantastic.
Oh, who have we got in here now? We've got a couple more. We've got more people joining us.
Technical issues.
Lorna's with us now. Oh, we've lost another one. This is like pinball machine. One goes up, one goes down. This is exciting on a Saturday afternoon, ladies. This is really keeping us on our toes here at the Health Careers Live. So I'm going to try. Let's see. Sayyada, can you are you able to get your sound on, or are you stuck? You're stuck with no sound again, right? In which case, I'm dropping down to Lorna. This is like a quiz game. This is, so I'm coming to Lorna on the. But oh, she's moved to the middle row now. So you just moved across. Hi, Lorna. Tell us something about yourself and what you'd like to share this afternoon.
Sure. So my name is Lorna. I am a newly qualified practitioner. I'm a speech and language therapist, and I work for Oxleas NHS Trust, which is a mental health and learning disabilities trust. And I've been working for, 1 year and about 3 weeks now. So really fresh. And I have a split post. So I work with adults with learning disabilities in a college in South East London, and also adults with learning disabilities in the community.
Brilliant. And what's the best bit about your job? What do you love about your job?
I love getting to know people, which is really nice. I think it's easier in a college because I'm there 4 days a week. So even if I'm going to see one service user and I'm walking down the corridor, I might see 4 or 5 other people that I work with. And I'm like, oh, hi, how are you doing? How are you today? How was your lesson? What have you got next? So it's really nice sort of getting to know people.
Brilliant, thank you. And I'm a speech therapist like yourself, so it's always nice to see what are the skills and the attributes that you think you bring to a team. And we've had a question in from Rosie asking about your role as, so it's particularly to the OTs on the panel, but now you're here as well. So what are the other professions that you work with in your clinical team? Lorna, I'll come to you first.
Okay. In our college, in college at least, I work with another speech therapist who's my manager, but also an OT and a PT as well. And obviously I know a lot of the rest of you are OTs, and OT is actually really quite cool. I've realised working closely with them. Not saying I'm in the wrong profession, just saying OTs are really cool. In the community, I work with psychologists quite a lot, and community health nursing, I would say.
Brilliant, thank you. And what about you, Emily? Who else is in your team around the patient?
Oh, can you hear me?
Yeah, we don't have any physios, but I work with a speech and language therapist, social worker, the consultant, the ward, and nurses. Very, very closely. We work really closely together, and psychologists. We all speak together every day. So yeah, it's a real team effort.
Hi,
Brilliant.
can you hear me?
We can hear you. Hello, good afternoon. Introduce yourself and tell us something about your job that you do.
Sorry, just had a lot of technical difficulties. My name is Sayyada. I'm an occupational therapist. I work in community mental health. So it is with adults over the age of 18 with mental illnesses living in the community. And I'm an occupational therapist, so I try to make sure that people have the support they need in the community to live as independently as possible for as long as possible, and kind of keep them out of hospital and make sure they're doing well generally.
Brilliant. Do you know what I love about this panel is that you're showing your solution focused, positive persistence approach to the way in which you face challenging situations. So I'm really pleased to see you have stuck with it this afternoon with us. So tell me something about why you chose your career of choice because we've had a few questions in here around I'd like to understand what would you give the applicants who want to work in learning disabilities and autisms? What do they need in terms of applying, getting work experience, and understanding those careers? What's your experience of that? Did you have any, in terms of before you started your course, had you had any work experience or personal experience that led you into wanting to be into this, into mental health, learning disability and autism services, or was it only once you got on your course that you found out about it and became interested in it?
For me, I think it was because I come from Tanzania, which is in Africa, and it's very stigmatized in terms of mental health. And so coming into OT, I never wanted to work in mental health. And there was a significant thing that had happened. And I remember in my first year and first week, we had to write a post-it note on the area where we wouldn't like to work and why. And I put mental health. And then I had my physical health placement, and it was all right, but I knew it wasn't something I wanted to do. And then I had my second placement, which was a mental health placement, and I loved it so much. I ended up getting a job there as an HCA. And from there on, I realized this is what I want to do. This is where I want to get into. And I immediately then, like, Darshita and Emily spoke about, the rotations. I knew that wasn't an area that I wanted to go to. I knew it was straight mental health.
Thank you. So I'm just going to mention, because a couple of you have mentioned static and rotation. What does that mean for people that are new to the workforce? What do those two terms mean?
So with static is something that you work in a specific area for, like, as a permanent contract, where I think rotation, if I'm not mistaken, is you go into different areas within the trust. Is it every 6 months, every 3 months?
6, yeah.
6 months. So we've got a bit of a mixture here. We've got some that are on, some of you that have been on rotations, and some of you that are in static posts, substantive posts. Okay. And do you think there's any benefits or, pros or cons to one or the other, or is that just where those were the opportunities that you could work?
I think for me, the pros and cons of being on a rotation is that you can actually every 6 months try a whole new setting, which I love because I just couldn't decide on which area I wanted to go in. The con of that, I guess, is that you really end up loving the place you're at, and then you have to move and then start all over again. But I think it's a really good opportunity if you are feeling a bit stuck and not sure where to go.
Lovely, thank you. Lorna, have you got any top tips or words of advice, or as I like to call them, golden nuggets, that you'd like to share with people to inspire them about coming to work in the allied health professions and maybe speech therapy? Come and join us.
I would say, I'd say keep trying. I think, especially in speech therapy, I don't know what it's like in other allied health professions, but sometimes trying to get on a speech therapy post can be really challenging. And I remember the first time I applied, I didn't get in. And I applied to 2 universities at first. And I felt really downhearted. But it's not actually personal. It's not about you. It could just be you need to get a bit more experience. It could be you just need to volunteer a bit more. It could be that you just need to really think about if that's the place for you. And try other areas. I mean, I'm in London. I live in London, so I tried those areas. But I actually ended up getting a place in Essex. So it was a little bit of a commute, but I kind of saw the positive and I was like, right, that's the time I can do my reading. That's the time I can do my homework that I potentially might have forgotten to do the night before. So just keep trying. It is a really, really, it's a great area to work in and it's so varied. If I'm not mistaken, there are 14 AHP careers. And obviously I'm biased. I think speech therapy is great, but all of those careers are really wonderful. They're careers in where you really do make a difference in people's lives. And it's not kind of, oh, you know, I want to save the world, bleeding heart, but you really do make a difference for people. And that's really quite special. And not everyone can say that about their job roles, really, but all of us can.
Brilliant, thank you. And Sayyada, is there anything else you'd like to share with us in terms of your top tips?
I think I would say, like Lorna, just keep applying. I ended up going to Northampton. I was an international student, so I think in that area was a bit more difficult with grades and things that were different when I attended. But if you are international and you're watching this,
David, sorry.
Keep going. We've had some interference. Keep going.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. So if you are international, a lot of the times in your countries, there will be like agencies who are free and to help you get into uni, to help you with your applications and things like that. So I would recommend you going there. Use your career counsellors at schools. Just talk to people in the profession, especially when you do get the place and you have to interview for it, because I know OT was an interview. Speaking to people in the profession is really helpful because it gives you an insight of what their day-to-day life and, you know, just seeing. And if you get a time or an opportunity to go shadow someone, I would say to do that.
Brilliant, thank you. So that's a really good point. So over in the virtual hub today for We Are AHPs, we have got our AHP 360 virtual reality day in the life of experiences that people can go and have a look and an experience behind the scenes for some. So we've got therapeutic radiography, we've got orthoptists, we've got podiatrists, we've got speech and language therapists, we've got prosthetists and orthotists. So some of those careers are maybe not so well known, and so if you want to go and see, you know, peek behind the curtains and see what happens, please do so. I can see Felicity's joined us, but we've not been able to have her engage with us in this session. So give us a wave, Felicity. Felicity is the lead of the preceptorship programme at Oxleas and had very kindly put together our wonderful panel of guests this afternoon. So I've been your co-pilot, Felicity. Don't worry, we've taken off. We've managed to pick up the passengers along the way, and I hope everyone will land safely back in their homes. I'd like to say a huge thank you to all of you for sharing your stories and time with us this afternoon. I'm actually going to pick up with you because you've got such wonderful stories and it's such an important part of our workforce that I'm going to find another way to showcase the wonderful work that you do so that we don't lose it through our connectivity issues this afternoon. So watch this space, ladies. I'm coming for you. Thank you so much for your time. I'm going to hand back to George.
Fantastic. And thank you, everybody, for sticking in there throughout those issues that we've had. Do keep on sharing on social media any thoughts that you've had, anything you found interested so far, or further questions. You can post them in the chat if you've got questions that you'd like to be answered later on. And also making sure that we hashtag VHCC2021 on social media.